Maximum Football 2024 released on early access yesterday on Steam, and I got to play a little bit of it yesterday on stream. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I enjoyed, what I hope gets fixed, and what I genuinely didn't enjoy. Now, before we get into the video, I just want to remind you guys that these are just my thoughts on the game. These aren't end-all be-all thoughts, it's just what I felt, how I felt about the game in general. So take it with a grain of salt, take it for what it is, and I really encourage you guys to try the game out for yourself. It's actually free on Steam right now, so if you have a good enough PC to run it, I say give it a try for yourself. Also, just keep in mind that this game is in early access, so this review might not be as evergreen as my future review of the game when it's fully released. But anyways, let's get into it. First and foremost, I want to talk about the presentation and gameplay in general. First and foremost, as far as presentation goes, with this being an indie title, I think out of all the games that you would call Madden alternatives, this game probably is the best presentation-wise that we've gotten so far. Obviously, this game was announced about 3 years ago, and they really did a great job in those 3 years on making this presentation look absolutely phenomenal. And there's even commentary in the game, and it doesn't sound as robotic as Access Football's commentary. Granted, it's not the best commentary in the world, but it doesn't feel robotic. There are some issues with the commentary, like they kind of overdo it with certain things, and there are a few glitches with commentary. Like every time you call a timeout, basically the commentary team talks as if you're gonna get a penalty or something like that for calling a timeout. Obviously, again, the game is an early release, but that's just something that I feel like the team should work on fixing in the future. One of my big complaints about Access Football was the presentation, but this game and its presentation is just beautiful. It doesn't feel as lifeless as Access did, and I just feel like, in general, they did a really good job with the presentation on this game. Now let's talk about the actual gameplay. Now, running the football, I feel like, is pretty solid for the most part. I don't think that there are too many issues when it comes to running the ball. I feel like sometimes blockers miss a few blocks here and there and whatnot. I mean, that's going to happen in football, especially at the college level. But as far as this being an indie title, I feel like running is a lot more fluid than other titles that we've had, like the previous Maximum Football games, and absolutely Access Football. However, I feel like the passing game in this game just feels a little too rough, I would say. I just feel like anytime you throw a pass, like you really have very little control of where the ball goes for the most part, at least like in the games that I've played so far. And I honestly feel like that's something that they could absolutely improve with an update. And this community, I feel like the people that make the game are pretty receptive when it comes to feedback. Like they're already putting a patch for a few glitches, and they said that they're going to fix some more things in the future. But I don't know, passing just doesn't really feel all that good to me in this game. And honestly, it's just something that I feel like they can improve on. I feel like, you know, if we have a little bit more control of where the football goes, I think that'll go a long way to making the offensive gameplay feel much better. Now, defensively, I don't have like a ton of complaints for the most part. It just feels like tackling is a little too suction-like. I feel like that's a complaint that a lot of people have had, where just like you kind of just, you know, animate into sacks. And obviously, this is an indie produced game, so it's like I'm not going to be too rough on them for that. I mean, we're not going to get like, you know, AAA type tackling. I mean, we're not exactly talking about a AAA title by any means, but I feel like coverage is pretty fair for the most part. I feel like as far as like pass rush and whatnot goes, it could improve a little bit as well. I think there are a lot of things that can work on when it comes to gameplay in general. It's not the worst gameplay that I've ever gotten, but I feel like in 2024, even with this being an indie game, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to all that. All in all, definitely not the worst game that I've played when it comes to like football games within the past few years, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. I also just want to let the developers know that I did end up getting a glitch in the fourth quarter of the game that you're seeing on the screen, where basically I wasn't able to control any of my players at a certain point, at least offensively. Like I couldn't move anybody. So that's something you guys might want to look into. Now we'll talk about the main selling point of this game, the ability to create your own team. Now, in order to create a team, you do have to clone one of the existing teams in the game, but you'll have full customization of pretty much everything having to do with the team outside of stadiums, which I'm sure is coming at some point. But, I mean, the customization options in this game are just absolutely phenomenal. You basically have a built-in team builder within the game where all you got to do is just upload a logo from your desktop and you'll be able to put it into the game and create any team that you want to create. Like right here, I have the Virginia Beach Vipers, which is my team builder team in CFB 25. And you can customize the colors and pretty much everything having to do with the jersey as well. I mean, there are so many customization options in this game, and I feel like it runs a lot better than Team Builder as a whole. Now, part of the issue that I have with this is a lot of the helmets and whatnot, and a lot of like the different things on the jerseys and whatnot, the uniforms as a whole. A lot of them are locked behind a paywall, and we'll get to more of that in just a second when we talk about the Dynasty mode. But it feels like a lot of stuff in this game is locked behind a paywall. Like there are literally certain helmets and like gloves and like other aspects of the uniform that you don't have access to unless you end up paying $19.99 for, I believe, what is the starter version, or pay more for the legend version. And I don't know how I feel about that after they said like a while ago the game was going to be free to play. I know they said that you'd have to pay for Dynasty a few weeks ago and whatnot, but I mean, I feel like it was kind of misrepresented by saying, oh, well, the game's going to be free to play, and then say, well, you still have to pay $19.99 for certain helmets and certain like aesthetics to your team as far as like create a team goes and all that. Like, I mean, I don't think that we were lied to per se, because it's still technically free to play like X Division mode and whatnot, but I feel like we were misled to some degree, at least. But I mean, any game like this, you're gonna have to think that, yeah, they're gonna charge something for us somewhere down the line, so it is what it is. I just personally think that, you know, saying off rip that the game was gonna be free to play, and then at a certain point you tell us that we're gonna have to pay for Dynasty mode and like other stuff like that at a certain point. I mean, that's gonna alienate some people at a certain point, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Overall, the customization options as they are without the paywall are still pretty good. I just don't like the fact that there are certain things hidden behind the paywall, but all in all, the customization is great and it's probably my favorite part of the game so far. Now we'll talk about the reason that I wanted to get the game, the reason I usually get any sports game in general. We'll talk about Dynasty mode. As you guys can see, it is unrestricted after you pay $19.99, which again, they said the game was going to be free to play, but unfortunately you do have to pay for Dynasty mode. And again, certain aspects of the game, as you can see on the screen, are locked behind the paywall of $19.99. But basically, Dynasty mode, you end up getting 2 tickets when you pay the $19.99, so you can do 2 different dynasties, it looks like. And you can import any of your created teams into the Dynasty. And I actually don't even think that you have to replace anybody. I might be wrong about that, but it is what it is. But now we'll get into customized conferences. You can basically customize conferences the same exact way you can in CFB 25. And you can change the teams that are in conferences. You can rename them and whatnot. But the one thing I don't really like is having to pick a coach. You basically can't create your own coach. And again, it's early access, so maybe they'll make it so you can create a coach in the future. But as of right now, you have to just sign one. You're not assigned one, unfortunately. And I feel like that might be a little bit problematic. But in Dynasty mode, you can choose how many teams you have in the Dynasty. You can pick how many teams make the playoffs as well. Pick how many weeks you want. 8, 12, or 24 is a little weird, but it is what it is. And you can pick multiple weeks of preseason if you want as well. And you can also enable conference realignment, as you can see on the screen. The overlay for Dynasty mode actually looks pretty solid for the most part. It looks similar to what you get with Madden and CFB to a lesser extent. Recruiting actually has its own tab, so does My College and My Coach as well. And you're actually able to improve your players on this screen as well, so that's pretty cool. Unlike CFB, they don't just do it automatically. You can actually improve your players using XP in this game, and you can pick what you improve for them, so that's pretty cool as well. Then on the My College screen, you have a bunch of different options here. You can check out the stadium, you can mess around with customization stuff, you can check the budget, set your depth chart, all that good stuff. Now, I do have some pretty big complaints about recruiting for the most part. I just wish that there was a much more organized way of showing which players were interested in you. I do like that you can kind of gain interest with players pretty easily, but it's like, I just feel like this could be much more organized in the future. Like where you didn't just have to scroll down on a player to see like what their interest was. Like obviously they're like, you have to scout guys. You get a pretty good amount of scouting points as well for that. But I think as a whole, they're on the right track with scouting. They show pretty much everything on the screen where you're looking at players and whatnot. And honestly, it's not the best like recruiting system in the world, but it's not bad. I just think that there are a few things that it can improve when it comes to recruiting. So what are my thoughts on this game so far? As far as the presentation goes, I really do think that this is probably the best presentation we've gotten from one of these games that is supposed to be a game that's an alternative to Madden or CFB. I think the presentation is top notch. They did a really good job of presenting this game. Another complaint I do have about gameplay is I kind of wish that they had an instant replay that you could just kind of freelance in and just like, you know, actually look around and whatnot. So that's another big complaint I have, but I think that's something that they're working on putting in anyways. So it's not too big of a complaint. But gameplay wise, there's a lot to improve on. I think once again, passing could be a lot better in this game. I think, you know, defense as a whole is pretty solid for the most part, but I think tackling sometimes feels a little too, you know, animation based, and that's something we complain about with Madden all the time. So hopefully they fix those things. I think with customization, I don't like that they have so much locked behind the paywall, but that is what it is at the end of the day. And I think there's just a lot of things they can improve with as far as Dynasty mode goes, especially with recruiting. So overall, the big things that I really want to complain about with this game, and I'm not trying to go out of my way to complain about the game, I gotta be completely honest and transparent about how I feel about it though. Number one, I really feel like they had a missed opportunity by not putting this game out before College Football 25 came out. Obviously, that game has had plenty of issues of its own. Like, I mean, there's so many people, myself included, who have had issues with Team Builder. And honestly, a lot of gameplay issues are still in that game currently. But I feel like this game really could have popped off if they would have released like at some time last year. Now, obviously, I think it's good that they waited 3 years to drop the game. Just as, like, you know, so it's the best that it could possibly be for the most part. But I still think there are plenty of issues, even in early access, that probably shouldn't be in a game. Another complaint I do have with gameplay is the lack of the ability to kick an onside kick in this game, and the lack of the ability to kneel the ball as well. I mean, I think those are two crucial parts of a football game that should even be in the game in early access. And also, I think they do need to expand on playbooks as well, but I think they already said they're going to do all three of those things. So I just don't like that it's not in here at early access, but it is what it is. But again, my main issue is I feel like they would have done so much better if they would have released the game last year as far as, like, you know, sales and whatnot. But I understand at the same time, you know, games take time, and we always complain that games are rushed, but they took their time with this one. But I just think it would have been more beneficial for them to get some more work done and get it in before CFP 25 came out, but it is what it is. Now, as far as them charging for essentially for Dynasty mode and some more customization options, after saying the game was going to be free to play, I just feel like it was a little bit misleading. Now, obviously, if you really think about it, then yeah, we kind of knew that they were going to charge something for the game somewhere, and it just sucks that it was Dynasty mode. Now, granted, do I feel like this game is worth $20? I think it absolutely has the potential to. With all the issues that the game currently has, I'm not quite sure I would say that, but I mean, it's not a terrible game. It's not a terrible play. Like, I would absolutely play it again. I will absolutely play it again. But I think there's a lot to work on, and I am more than willing to give any feedback to the team that I could possibly give them. I am in their Discord, so I'll try to be more active in there as we move forward towards the release, the full release, I should say. But back to the original point, I wouldn't be mad if anybody felt misled by them saying the game was going to be free to play. Like, I feel like they just could have explained it a little bit better. And it's not a deal breaker for me, but I can see how somebody would come to that conclusion that it was a deal breaker for them. But obviously, nothing in this life is really free, if we're being completely honest. But we'll just have to see how things play out. Honestly, they did a pretty good job thus far with the game. I think there are plenty of things that they can improve on, but overall, it is a playable game. It can be fun. I feel like people just got to be patient with the devs, and we'll just keep on moving forward, keep on working with them. But I'm going to abstain from giving this a rating because it's still early access. Once the game is like officially released, then I definitely will give a full review of it. But this is just my early access review. Let me know what you think. If you guys think I'm wrong about anything, feel free to let me know in the comments section. We can definitely have a conversation in the comments section. If I'm wrong about anything, I'm definitely more than willing to take my L and learn, you know. I'm not too proud to, like, you know, admit when I'm wrong about certain things, even like with a video or whatever like that. But, you know, that's just part of life. Anyways, let me know what you think of the game so far. Let me know what you think of the customization and Dynasty and the gameplay and all that. Let me know down below. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys drop a sub over here. I live stream on this channel pretty frequently. I have a College Football 25 Dynasty with a team builder team called the Virginia Beach Vipers, which you probably saw in this video. I also have a team builder franchise in Madden 25. And I'm going to be playing some other sports games on here as well, including this game as well. So hit that sub button, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, dislike it if you disliked it, and I'll see you guys soon.